So let's talk a little bit about success and failure. So the realization that we have been discussing, the insight, the observation, the attainment, the so-called attainment that we've been discussing of self-realization or enlightenment, which is basically the realization that here and now is the sole reality, leads to the transcendence of dependence on success and failure. Because the very idea that success or failure can affect you in any way is based on the belief that you're a separate body mind identity. So if you believe that you're a separate body mind identity, as we've discussed, you've imposed an enormous limitation and boundary upon the infinite, boundless, absolute truth which you actually are, and that limitation leads to the desire for reattainment of infinity and perfection, which is your original true nature. And all actions that you take are subsequently driven by that goal to that desire, that goal of reattaining infinity and perfection, which is actually here and now. So all so-called successes in your life are things which you believe have taken you closer to the ultimate goal of infinity and perfection. But as we see, infinity and perfection is here and now, which implies that you don't need to attain infinity or perfection. And therefore, all the so-called successes that you've had actually mean nothing because you were just running after something you had already. So, success loses its power over you in light of the realization that we've been speaking of. But on the other hand, failure also loses power over you because you cannot be diminished. You are absolute, immutable, infinite, and perfect. So, regardless of whether things go your way or not, that fact remains the case. The fact of immortality and perfection here and now. So, the immensely painful effect that failure has on a lot of people is again due to the identification with the separate, limited body mind entity. So, from the limited perspective of the ego or the separate body mind identity, there is such a thing as success and failure, gain and loss, and you're bound to these dualities. Basically, you're happy when you're successful, and you're unhappy when you're in perceived failure. But in light of the realization that we've been speaking of, this bondage to success and failure is dissolved because perfection is eternal and ever present and here and now. So actions no longer bind you, they no longer dictate your state of happiness or well-being. But that doesn't mean that you stop taking action. You continue working as a form of play, as a form of engagement, as a form of passing the time, without any dependence of the results of those actions upon your state of well-being. So enlightenment is the transcendence of success and failure.